Hey, everybody. We have reached 50 movies on the Criterion Collection, which would feel more impressive if there weren't around 1,200 the last time I checked. This is going to be the rest of my life. Oh. It's our third Fellini film, And the Ship Sails On by Federico Fellini from Italy from 1983. I feel like 3 is a decent number to judge something by. I try not to judge a TV show until after 3 episodes. Similarly, I think if you've seen 3 movies by the same director, you can have at least a rough sense of their style, what they like, what they don't like, what they do, what they don't do. So I will say this. Fellini is an excellent director. He's not my cup of tea because he is light on story, heavy on characters. Now that's interesting, and a story's kind of useless without interesting characters. But interesting characters on their own can make a 2-hour movie kind of drag. For me, again, personal preference. That said, this movie is my favorite Fellini film of the 3 that we've had so far. So now I'm a film student who has a favorite Fellini film. That's good. The setting for this movie, because there's story that happens, but it's mostly the last half hour that has story. The setting for this film is a world famous opera singer has died. It is very shortly before World War I kicks off, and a whole bunch of theatrical types have rented a cruise ship to go and scatter her ashes at the island that she was born on as per her wishes. So it's a cruise ship full of crazy eccentric characters, opera singers, musical directors, musicians, and a lot of the story is just that, just following them. You could read a lot into it in terms of class struggle, as you watch these operatic people interacting with the crew of the ship, and then later interacting with a bunch of shipwrecked Serbians who are trying to escape what will become World War One. You could also read into the political tension because World War One is just around the corner, and there is a person of note on the ship. And then a warship shows up and wants the refugees. So there's some meat on this bone. The characters are all pretty interesting. I do find it strange, though. They have several recognizable British celebrities who have very clearly have their voices dubbed over in Italian for this film. But that seems to be a fairly common practice in Italy, at least in this time period, to just dub over all the audio. Probably makes filming easier. Speaking of filming, the opening sequence of this movie is pure art. It is people gathering on the dock outside the ship, and it starts as a silent black and white film, and you hear the projector clicking. You see people talking, but you don't hear anything. You even see some people reacting to the presence of the camera. So it's very much like the very earliest days of cinematography, just a camera going out on the streets and people being like, what is this thing? Then slowly it adds in subtitles, the old-timey kind where it's like the whole screen shows you what they just said. Then it starts to add in a little ambient sound. You can hear the ship horn. You can hear some metal creaking. Then around the time you see a band setting up and playing, which has no piano in the band, a piano soundtrack kicks in, like they used to have at the theater houses, where somebody would play the piano so there was music. Then you start to hear dialogue, and then color fades in. So basically, the opening sequence of this movie is the history of cinema. It's very cool, and it's very well done. And it sort of ties back to at the very end, where during almost near the end of the climax, the camera actually pulls back enough that you can see the production. The camera goes behind the scenes and you actually see the filmmakers making the movie you're watching, which is pretty neat. Because one of the effects that they do, since 99% of this film is on a boat, is the scenery very gently tilts back and forth as scenes go on. It's subtle enough that it doesn't like overwhelm your attention, but you do kind of notice it. And my thought when I was watching it is all they're doing is just, slowly tilting the camera back and forth, because that would be the cheapest and easiest way to accomplish this effect. But when the camera pulls back at the end, you see that they've built the entire set on hydraulics, and the hydraulics are actually doing this number, which is a much more expensive option, but does get you a more authentic performance out of your actor. So that was cool. There's a lot to like about this movie. Still lighter on the plot than I would like, and the casting is weird if you're going to dub everybody over anyway. The reason I keep coming back to that is one of the British actors they have, can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's not a main character in this, but he's a very notable British actor who has one of the most high-class British accents of all time. Just when you hear this guy's voice, his nose is straight up in the air. He played Sir Frank, the Treasury Secretary in Yes, Minister. He's been in a lot of other things too, but it's just like, you're using this guy and we don't even get to hear his ridiculously thick British accent. Do I think you should watch this movie? Of the Fellini films I've seen so far, I recommend this one the most. It's still going to be light on story, so it is mostly catching what's going on the ship. There is one other thing I really like about this movie. There is a journalist on the ship, and he is able to address us, the audience, directly. So he introduces us to the people on the ship. He tells us what's going on. Sometimes he just looks at us and winks, like we're in on the joke with him. I love that kind of fourth wall breaking, and it's something that cinema does very rarely, because cinema often tries to portray that, oh no, there's just, you're seeing what's actually happening through a glass. It's called the fourth wall, right? Because if you're watching a movie or TV show, typically, if your characters are in a room, you can see three walls to the left, to the right, and behind them, and we are watching them through the fourth wall, which you can think of as like a window or a glass wall. And so whenever a character talks to you directly, looks at you like I'm looking at you now, and talks to you, that's called breaking the fourth wall, because suddenly there's not a wall anymore, right? Because they're talking directly to us and we can hear them. It's breaking the fourth wall is also a metaphor for breaking that sort of idea that you're just a witness to something that happened, right? It enforces the idea that what we're seeing is sort of an artificial construct, because the narrator is able to interact with us and talk to us. Deadpool does a lot of fourth wall breaking. That's probably the most public, familiar fourth wall breaking thing that the average person would know about, where he talks to us, or he makes jokes about the fact that he's in a movie, or, he makes a joke about, well, we couldn't afford that actor. All of that is fourth wall breaking, because they're breaking the illusion that the movie you're watching is a real thing, and it calls attention to the fact that it's a movie. I love a good fourth wall break. And it's not done very often, which makes the times that it's done and done well stand out a lot. So the opening sequence, the fourth wall breaks, the fun characters. I did like this movie. I would have liked it better with a stronger plot throughout, but that's just me. That's always going to be me. So yeah, I'd say if you want to try a Fellini film and you never have, this is the one I would try. Yeah? Anyway, next time is a special treat, at least for me, because it's a film that I really love, and this is a fun excuse to get to watch it again. It is from the United Kingdom, 1985, from director Terry Gilliam, who I just adore, and it is Brazil. So I get to watch that next time. I'm very excited. I'll see you guys there. As always, thank you for watching.